Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 5, Frustration of the Sacrifice of Daksha, verse 12. भयमेव उद्विग्नदृशोच्चामने चामाने जनेन दक्षस्य मुहुर्महात्मनः उत्पेतुरुत्पाततमः सहस्रशो भयावहादिवि भुवौ भूमौ च पर्यक्. Synonyms: Bahu, much, evam, in this manner, Udvikna Drisha, with nervous glances, Uchyamane, while this was being said, Janena, by the persons assembled at the sacrifice, Dakshasya, of Daksha, Muhu, again and again, Maha Atmanaha, strong hearted, Utpetuhu, appeared, Utpata Tama, very powerful symptoms, Sahasrasa, by the thousands, Baya Avaha, producing fear, Divi, in the sky, Bhumau, on the earth, Cha, and Paryak, from all sides. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charan Arvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. While all the people talked amongst themselves, Daksha saw dangerous omens from all sides, from the earth and from the sky. Purport. In this verse, Daksha has been described as Mahatma. The word Mahatma has been commented upon by different commentators in various manners. Veera Raghava Acharya has indicated that this word Mahatma means study in heart. That is to say that Daksha was so strong-hearted that even when his beloved daughter was prepared to lay down her life, he was steady and unshaken. But in spite of being so strong-hearted, he was perturbed when he saw the various disturbances created by the gigantic black demon. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakura remarks in this connection that even if one is called Mahatma, a great soul, unless he exhibits the symptoms of Mahatma, he should be considered a Duratma or a degraded soul. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 30. The word Mahatma describes the pure devotee of the Lord. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritimashrita. A Mahatma is always under the guidance of the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, how could such a misbehaved person as Daksha be a Mahatma? A Mahatma is supposed to have all the good qualities of the demigods, and thus Daksha, lacking those qualities, could not be called a Mahatma. He should be instead called, he should instead be called Duratma, a degraded soul. The word Mahatma, to describe the qualification of Daksha, is used sarcastically. Let's offer some prayers and then we can have some discussion. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Once again, good morning to all the devotees. So we will, similar to how Srila Prabhupada started the purport, we'll just discuss why Daksha is considered as Mahatma. So kind of categorizing the class into three sections. First, we will discuss on the two possibilities or the two considerations for the Mahatma that Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas have given. And then what is the effect of such a duratma or such an activity that Daksha has performed, and we'll end with a small prayer. So today's verse, as Srila Prabhupada also was saying, clearly Daksha is being called as Mahatma. But when we look at the entire pastime, starting from the initial interactions of Lord Shiva and Daksha, we kind of see it's kind of striking that how can such a personality um, who seems to be quite contradictory is called as Mahatma. So as Srila Prabhupada was also saying, here is a father, based on the lines of what Veera Raghavacharya has commented. Here is a father who was completely undisturbed, like not even quite a long ago, was not even like a tiny scent of affect that it showed on him when his own daughter, Mother Sati, ends her life by entering into the sacrificial fire. He completely remains undisturbed. So it can, when such a drastic event is happening in front of our eyes, um, either when somebody so close to you is about to leave your body, there are only two kind of people who can remain quite sober. One is, which we'll kind of get into slightly more details. One is a sober-minded person, or the other way that what you could also see is somebody who is very evil-minded. When you kind of are so evil that, like it is also said during the pastime of Jagai Madai, that when when they started chasing Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, and when then Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, they could Jagai and Madhava were not able to catch them. They were just so angry on them. They were just the anger was so much that they started beating each other. So sometimes when you're the extra, like it also is it is fully surrendered spontaneous devotee's actions versus somebody who is just a kind of who is not caring for the social norm and etiquette. The external behavior might appear the same. So in the same way, a completely sober-minded person and a completely, I think for a lack of better term, maybe, completely evil-minded person, when something such drastic is happening in front of them, it appears it is not affecting neither of those. So we'll kind of go slightly further, based on what Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas are explaining. Is Daksha a kind of a sober-minded person, or is he not a sober-minded person? So one, it could be that again, Srila Prabhupada ends the purport where he says it is a sarcastic statement. So in one way, one is you kind of can see Mahatma when with reference of Mahatma. One is the literal definition, which is a very sober-minded person, and then there is an ironic definition, which is an evil-minded person. So if you kind of expand slightly on that, so the word Mahatma and the understanding of a sober-minded person comes from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 14. So we know that famous verse where Krishna is saying, Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha agama apayano nityas tam titikshasva bharata. Titikshasva, one who is able to tolerate. Here also, so, when such a drastic event happened, you're it will not affect you because you're kind of somebody who is able to tolerate the fluctuations of Sita Ushna, so as the translation goes, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. O sign of Bharata, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. But if we kind of, okay, if we should we consider that Daksha was being considered as a Mahatma, a sober-minded person, because the drastic event of Mother Sati entering into the sacrificial fire did not affect him. So he was, so maybe somebody might kind of give this verse saying that he, like he is Titikshasva, where he's able to tolerate the fluctuations. He understands that Mother Sati is just not his daughter, kind of going into the entire pastime of Harsha Shoka and kind of what Narada Muni was explaining. So somebody might give that argument that Daksha is a very sober-minded person. But rather than just seeing that one specific incident, if we kind of go back into the story timeline, we have seen that from when we look at the entire timeline of story, what Daksha has consistently demonstrated and shown is his heavy insecurity and envy, especially towards Lord Shiva. Somebody, in fact, we have also read, and multiple devotees have also explained, where just because Lord Shiva was in such highly elevated position than Daksha, and when he got the position of being a Prajapati, then like now there was already an insecurity in his heart, and then that envy because of the power and the position that he had was kind of was physically and externally also demonstrating. So somebody who was not able to kind of tolerate the insecurity that was in his heart, and that ended up being shown as envy towards Lord Shiva. So such a person, we cannot say that we, is tolerant of these fluctuations of everything. We cannot also say that is tolerant towards the duality, because he understands the spiritual vision that we are not this body and all of that. So therefore, with that, it kind of just looking at the life, kind of contrasting, overlaying the life of Daksha onto the definition that the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna gives us in Bhagavad Gita, that we can see that the word Mahatma is not applicable on the literal sense. So based on that, what Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas are saying is Daksha is not a Mahatma, but rather he is a Duratma, one who is with a wicked mind, who always had this insecurity in his heart for whatever reason. And when and because once he got this position, that wicked mind started playing all kind of multiple possible scenarios. Okay, now I can do something about Lord Shiva. And then when he kind of found the situation where Lord Shiva was not standing up when he walks into the sacrificial arena, then he kind of blows open. So that is on the level of literal level. So somebody then might also come back and say that, oh, you're just taking one small incident from his life and then kind of um, all of us do slip. So just because you are just taking one simple example from his life, one single incident, and then kind of trying to um, overpaint a picture of him being a very envious person. So then next comes, which is also Srila Prabhupada um, is also helping us understand, where Srila Prabhupada, to even remove any possible taint of doubt or confusion or concern from our minds, Srila Prabhupada then goes on to define who is a real Mahatma. Srila Prabhupada is defining the definition of Mahatma is also what Sri Krishna has given in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 13, where he describes Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita bhajantyananyo manaso gnatva bhutadim avyayam. So what Krishna is giving us is three different qualities or qualifications for somebody who's to be considered as Mahatma. The first one is Daivim Prakritim Ashrita. So first what Krishna is saying, he is Mahatmanastu Mam Partha, is even in the first line itself, what Krishna is saying is Mahatma, O Partha, O son of Pruta, who is considered to be a Mahatma is somebody who is unto me, who is Daivim Prakritim Ashrita, that such a personality has taken shelter ashrita of the divine nature or the internal potency of the Lord. That is the first. I mean, not in a kind of hierarchical sense, but The first definition what Sri Krishna is giving is Daivim Prakritim Ashrita. And then he says, Bhajanti Ananya Manaso. And Srila Prabhupada, interestingly, in the word-to-word definition, it translates bhajanti as performing devotional service, not just as kind of a literal definition of performing bhajan, but what Srila Prabhupada translates that so beautifully as performing devotional service. And how does they perform devotional service? Ananya manaso, without any any deviation of their mind, with complete focus and with complete undeviating attention and devotion, they worship the Lord, Ananya Manasa, and then finally, Gnatva Bhutadim Avyayam. They've realized, they've Gnatva that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when we've and based on the acharyas that based on the understanding that acharyas have given us, when we say Krishna, that includes his name, that includes his form, that includes his qualities, pastimes, abode, and more importantly, amongst, again, not in a hierarchical sense, for our understanding, is entourage of the devotees, is associates that Krishna is always surrounded with. I remember once, I think this was in Chaupati or somewhere. There was a picture that I was the where Sri Krishna was. It is not a BBT painting, but an other painting that I saw where Sri Krishna was so beautifully demonstrated. He was standing and he was playing flute. And as we were talking, my brother then explained, saying that Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna is never alone. He is in He's always in if you observe in the BBT paintings, we also see that Krishna is never alone, depicted just by himself, um, a kind of a lonely person. He's always surrounded by some of his associates. Either it could be his Gopa friends, or it could be the residents of Dwaraka, or it could be some a cow or parrot or somebody or the other, and an associate of the Lord is always with him. So when we kind of a devotee, a Mahatma, realizes that Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in realizing Krishna, he also realizes the name of Krishna, the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, the abode of Krishna, and also the entourage of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, clearly states that the first qualification, which is the Daivim Prakriti Ashrita, if you go back and see that, a Mahatma is always under the guidance of the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, how could such a misbehaved person as Daksha be a Mahatma? So Srila Prabhupada is clearly saying that the first qualification, which is the Daivim Prakriti Ashrita, Daksha is not even qualifying to that. That how can such a person who was like kind of plotting all of this be somebody who is under the shelter of the internal energy of the Lord? And that is what Srila Prabhupada explained. But also, if you kind of think more, we also see that Gnatva Bhutadim Avyayam, what we have just discussed, is a devotee realizes Krishna is and the position, the ultimate position of all of his devotees and his entourage is his eternal associates. And we also have recently heard from His Grace Haripachar Prabhu so beautifully explaining the position of Lord Shiva. If Daksha is not realized, has not understood the position of Lord Shiva and is harboring such envy towards Lord Shiva, then neither of them, Daivim Prakritim Ashrita, as Srila Prabhupada is explaining, is not under the shelter of the internal potency of the Lord and is not realized the position of such an elevated personality, associate of the Lord. So that means is not understood also that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when you're in neither in the position of that under the shelter of the Daivim Prakriti, and you have not also understood Gnatva Bhutadim Avyayam, where you have also not realized the Krishna's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then there is no possibility of Bhajanti Ananya Manaso. Without realizing to whom we are worshipping, it is highly impossible that we can perform that devotional service with undeviating attention and devotion. So based on this, the explanation that our acharyas have um, so beautifully has blessed us with, it is clear that the reference of Mahatma that is given to Daksha is not a literal definition of being a very sober-minded person, even despite the fact that he was very undisturbed when Mother Sati has entered the sacrificial fire, but it is more of an ironical or a satirical, as Srila Prabhupada puts it, satirical way of kind of saying that he's not satirical way where they're saying he's a Mahatma. Like it's kind of in a funny, not a funny, kind of sarcastic way we say that, oh, he's a Mahatma. But in factuality, what our acharyas and what Srimad Bhagavatam is kind of indicating is Daksha through his actions is kind of demonstrating the qualities of a Duratma, a wicked-minded person who is an exact opposite of a great soul, which is the definition of Mahatma. So then, now that we understand the all we have seen till now is over and over kind of an offensive attitude and not just of an offensive attitude but also an offensive action that Daksha and his associates have been exhibiting towards Lord Shiva. So then the question comes back as, okay, you're saying that Daksha has been kind of exhibiting the qualities of a Duratma, of a wicked mind. So then what is the consequence of envying such an exalted personality like Lord Shiva? And the best um, the best analogy and definition that I could think of was what Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj gives in his very vivid description when he kind of categorizes Vaishnava Aparadh as a mad elephant offense. Like I remember reading this article way back, and it was the presentation that Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj gave was so vivid and so kind of clear that I still remember the place and like where I was sitting and where when I was reading that article by Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj. So once Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj kind of explains that once the offense is committed, there is nothing, almost nothing that we can do to counteract its reaction. So imagine kind of a mad elephant, which is beyond our control. Like you have so carefully tended to a garden, and then because of some reason where an elephant was walking around, and then you kind of went and poked it or something, and then the mad elephant is kind of cruising towards the garden that you have, and then physically there is nothing with the giant difference that we have of the face when the elephant is mad. There is almost physically nothing that we can do. But in here, so it kind of will come in, trample everything that is within its side, and when it feels appropriate, that's when the elephant kind of will eventually walk out from the garden. In the same way, like the like imagine somebody who's carefully tended to the garden, and then when they see this elephant kind of approaching, the face and the fear and the frightening emotions on their face, and that is the exact reaction that Daksha is demonstrating here. In fact, in like in the word to word translation, Srila Prabhupada translates Udvigna Drisha with nervous glances. Like at this point where we are in Srimad Bhagavatam, at this point, the mad elephant has not physically entered the garden yet. Veerabhadra and all of his thousands of the associates have not physically come into the arena where the sacrificial performance is being performed. But just the indications that were kind of showing around where and everybody were talking, oh, Daksha, you should not have done that. Now Veerabhadra and Lord Shiva's all his entourage are coming. And just the thought of kind of overhearing all of this. And imagine that even when Mother Sati would have kind of entered into the sacrificial fire, it is also described that Daksha's wives, multiple wives, and We're also discussing that everything is happening because of the offenses that Daksha was performing. He was also overhearing everything, but that did not affect him. But now, once this mad elephant of his the reaction of performing kind of the consequence or the reaction of offending such an elevated exalted devotee like Lord Shiva is now kind of almost on his in his doorstep. Now Daksha is kind of is making these nervous glances everywhere, trying to look, somebody please help me. Like, is there anything in my power that I can do? And kind of trying to, maybe he was trying to kind of look at the the Brahmanas who helped him previously in kind of counteracting Nandi and all the associates, and is now looking at um, at his soldiers, everybody. Like everybody that you can name in the entire universal creation was present in that sacrificial arena, and then he's trying to look at everybody, and is making these nervous glances to his left, right, trying to hoping that somebody will save him from this imminent danger of the mad elephant entering into his arena. And nothing that nothing, as Shri Gorgovind Maharaj also explains, nothing is kind of will be able to help him or protect him. um, and in fact it's kind of so graphic that there's obviously a lot more that we can discuss about offenses, how to avoid them, and seeking forgiveness. And there are multiple devotees. It's also so beautifully I've explained it, but rather than getting into all of the discussion, what I would like, uh, if it is feasible for you to kind of take few seconds and imagine, before we end this, just kind of a small kind of an experience that I thought might be beautiful, is just imagine the situation of Daksha, where till this point he was the controller, he was kind of demanding the respect, he was commanding the respect, and now he's in such a situation where he's helplessly just trying to make these nervous glances to his left, to his right, and being in such helpless position, that such is the wrath and power of Lord Shiva and Veerabhadra. And in extension to that, such is the wrath of Lord himself, Lord Krishna, that once his devotees are offended, the wrath kind of shows up in the form of Veerabhadra. That a Daksha, a father who was not even a tinge of disturbed when his own daughter was entering into the sacrificial fire, is now trembling in fear. If we can just kind of, if it's feasible, and closing our eyes for like just 5 to 10 seconds, and imagining the situation of Daksha, like, and what like kind of a vivid and graphic demonstration of the consequence of the offenses towards the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. I actually did that yesterday and it was quite scary. So, yeah. So with that thought, I'll end with this small prayer, um, just kind of on the end note, and then we'll end this. So the prayer that I wanted to kind of render is: what shelter can a Duratma like me seek except the lotus feet of Vaishnavas? O Lord Shiva, O beloved devotees of the Lord, please cast your compassionate glance upon this fallen soul. When I stumble, and I surely will, be the hand that steadies me, the voice that guides me, until, by your mercy alone, I finally reach the ultimate shelter, the divine and soothing lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Shyamasundara. So, with that prayer, um, I'll end the discussion here. But if there are any corrections or comments, have a lot of devotees whom I look up to in this call. So, if there is any correction or comment that you like to make, please. Hare Krishna. If not, then we'll end the discussion. Thank you so much for being part of the discussion. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvyeva cha patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare